They said Earth was dead weight. Outdated, unpredictable, and emotionally unstable. Those were the words the Galactic Council spat when they blacklisted humanity from the Inner Worlds Treaty. No one cared about the blue planet floating on the outer rim of Sector 9. They'd long drained it of its value. Minerals gone, atmosphere wrecked, population barely clinging to survival in broken cities. They thought Earth was done. But Earth had been watching and building. When the alarms sounded on Station Varun 8, no one took them seriously. A few bureaucrats glanced at the reports: radiation spikes near Mars, gravitational anomalies from Saturn's edge, but they dismissed it. Human tech, they scoffed, couldn't launch past its own gravity well without begging for alien scrap parts. They were wrong. In the dead silence of the Martian belt, something moved. The ship wasn't sleek or elegant like council crafts. It was brutal, angular, forged from scraps of Earth's fallen satellites, gutted space stations, and stolen alien tech. Its silhouette looked like a coffin built for gods, wrapped in scars and defiance. And from within it stepped the Titan. He wasn't a general, he wasn't a politician. He had no rank or badge, just a name the stars would learn to fear. Ward. Ward had been bred for war. Not in a lab, not in some bioengineered tank. He was the result of Earth's collapse, raised in the ruins of cities that used to be world powers. He grew up without a roof, surviving off stolen rations and fistfights. The only education he got came from watching invasion footage and learning every alien weakness humanity could catalog. When they came for Earth, he fought. When they left Earth to rot, he prepared. Now he stood 30 feet tall inside a mechanized exoframe built from everything Earth could salvage, Titan-class armor, powered by a cracked alien core and a human's will to destroy. Station Varun 8's commander, a three-eyed diplomat from the Corellian species, watched the incoming signal. At first, he laughed. Then the laughter stopped when the station trembled. Sensors exploded with warnings. Something had entered orbit. Something old, loud, and angry. When Ward landed, he didn't speak. He didn't ask for peace. He simply stomped forward, each step crunching steel. His armor hissed as it locked in its assault configuration. Plasma rounds bounced off his shoulder like rain on concrete. The council guards tried to contain him. They failed. He tore through them like they were cardboard. His right arm, modified with a kinetic pulse cannon, shattered force fields with ease. His left, an exoblade capable of piercing Corellian hulls, sliced through mechs like they were toys. Screams echoed in every corridor. Council Command tried to issue orders, to call in support from the homeworlds. But it was too late. The Titan from Earth had taken his first step, and he wasn't stopping. Ward didn't feel the pain when plasma grazed his side. Inside the cockpit of the Titan suit, surrounded by flickering red alerts and hydraulic hisses, he was far beyond the reach of fear or hesitation. Pain was familiar, like hunger, like betrayal. It didn't stop him. It reminded him he was alive. And more importantly, it reminded him who he was doing this for. He wasn't here for peace. He wasn't here to talk. He was here because they thought Earth was done. As Ward's exoblade tore through another corridor wall, he heard them screaming. Not in any language he knew, but fear sounded the same across species. He kicked down the blast door that separated him from the station's command core. His boot left a dent deep enough to echo, and with a grunt of effort, he bent the thick alloy inward like it was wet paper. The guards on the other side were already shaking. 3 Corellians with ion rifles, 1 armed Nikari, scaled and cold-blooded, taller than him even outside the Titan suit. They formed up like they'd trained for this moment. Ward moved before they did. He launched forward with the propulsion jets in his back, the Titan's armor screeching as it ripped across the floor. The exoblade found the Nikari's neck first, cleaving through scale and bone. The ion blasts came next, burning blue streaks flashing past his helmet, one striking his shoulder joint, hissing against the composite armor. Ward spun, catching the nearest Corellian with his fist, an industrial piston punch that crushed the creature's skull with a wet crack. The other two fired blindly, but Ward ducked low, sliding across the scorched floor and sweeping both of them with a leg plated in scrap steel and revenge. He didn't wait to check if they were alive. He didn't care. "Command core secure," he growled, his voice distorted by the helmet's old, glitching comlink. "Cut the uplinks." Back on Earth, somewhere beneath the collapsed city of Old Berlin, a voice crackled through his earpiece. "Roger that, Titan 1. Satellite feed severed. No distress signal got out. You're green for Phase 2. Ward grinned. The real work was just beginning. He wasn't just here to kill. He was here to show them. For decades, Earth was mocked, turned into a mining colony. Its skies were stripped, oceans poisoned. When Earth protested, the Galactic Council called them volatile. When Earth begged, they were ignored. And when Earth finally fought back, they were labeled terrorists, uncivilized, dangerous. Ward was here to show them they were right. He activated the Titan suit's data jack and rammed it into the command console. Sparks flew, and the station's systems stuttered as Earth's virus took hold. Every secure channel, every private message, every hidden file. The data floodgate burst open. "Download complete," the voice in his ear confirmed. "You just exposed every secret they buried. Time to burn the rest." Ward didn't need a second invitation. He planted 2 seismic charges against the command module's fusion core and stepped back, staring at the ticking lights. The explosives were crude, salvaged tech, reprogrammed with human grit. No failsafe, no second chance. Just boom. He walked away before they blew. The hallway behind him lit up like a newborn sun, flames chasing his footsteps as he moved deeper into the heart of Station Varun 8. The explosion shook the orbital ring, ripping through the Council's databanks, power grids, and weapons vaults. Sirens screamed, emergency doors slammed shut, fire suppression systems fought uselessly against the chaos. And still he walked. Ward had one more stop, the detention block. That's where they kept them, the last humans captured from border raids, workers who fought back, refugees who begged for asylum and were instead locked in alien cages. Officially, they didn't exist. The Council erased them from records. Ward knew better. He reached the block after 15 more minutes of bloodshed, most of it not his. At the cell doors, he disabled the auto turrets with an EMP grenade and forced the panel open with a hydraulic crank. The gate groaned as it lifted, and there they were. 24 humans, weak and starved. Some were barely conscious. A few looked at him with wide eyes, unsure if he was a savior or just another nightmare. Most didn't recognize him, not that he expected them to. They didn't know his name, only what he represented. Earth's payback. "Move," he said simply. "You're going home." One by one, they followed. Ward handed them weapons, stripped from fallen guards, still warm from combat. He didn't have enough suits, not enough time. But he had fire. He had fury. That would be enough. The escape plan wasn't complicated. Blow the docking bay, hijack a ship, ride the fire trail back to Earth. They made it halfway before hell broke loose. The Council had finally responded. Not with backup, not with negotiations. With a war cruiser. It loomed outside the station's window, a massive shadow blotting out Mars. Ward looked at it for one long second. That wasn't just any ship. That was a Devourer-class flagship, one of only 3 in the entire Council fleet. It wasn't here to stop him. It was here to erase the evidence, to turn the station and everything inside it into dust. "They're gonna nuke us," one of the rescued humans said, panic rising in his voice. "They're gonna wipe this whole place out." Ward didn't flinch. He turned to the others. "Get to Dock Bay 3. Take the Seraph-class transport. I'll buy you the time." No, we go together." "You think that ship's gonna wait? You run, you live. That's the only shot you've got." He looked at the youngest one. A girl, maybe 15, eyes too hollow for her age. "You tell Earth what happened. You tell them the Titan walked." He turned and ran the other way, toward the station's main reactor. He knew what he was doing. The Titan suit had a fusion overload option. It was meant as a last resort, an energy burst strong enough to destroy anything within a 3-mile radius. Suicide protocol. They taught him how to trigger it the day he was fitted into the armor. He'd always figured he'd die like this. Alone. Bleeding. Buying time. When he reached the reactor room, the Devourer-class cruiser opened fire. The entire station shuddered. Fires erupted in the walls. But he was already moving, slamming his fist into the override panel, ignoring the heat cooking his armor from the outside. He activated the overload. Countdown, 180 seconds. His comm link buzzed. "Ward, Titan 1, do you copy? Extraction shuttle is airborne. We have the civilians. Get the hell out of there." He didn't answer. He stood still as the overload countdown flashed. 160 seconds. Nutre einbadavde. He closed his eyes. He remembered the face of his brother, shot dead by council guards during the last rebellion in the streets of New Chicago. He remembered his mother, coughing herself to death in a smog-filled refugee tent. He remembered what it meant to be human, to fight when you had nothing left, to give your life so others could have one. 130 seconds. The fires crept closer. The reactor groaned. The Devourer's guns kept firing. And Ward stood tall, the Titan from Earth. The one they mocked. The one they erased. The one who would make sure they remembered. There was no explosion. Not the kind the Council expected. The Devourer-class cruiser had locked onto Station Varan 8 and fired everything. Ion lances, fusion torpedoes, particle beams. They wanted the station gone, not damaged, not disabled, gone. No evidence, no survivors, no questions asked. But then everything just stopped. The firing ceased. Lights on the massive flagship blinked and died one by one, as though the ship had choked on its own power. The entire vessel froze in orbit like a corpse floating in a vacuum. Silent. Still. And from the edge of that radioactive, crumbling space station, something drifted. Not a body, not wreckage, but a shape. Dark. Massive. Glowing faintly red. It moved slowly, limbs trailing smoke, armor scorched and melted in places, but still whole, still walking. Ward hadn't died. The overload didn't trigger the way it was meant to. Instead, it fused with the alien core inside the Titan suit, creating something the engineers back on Earth had never anticipated. A new energy burst, yes, but not outward, inward. The suit absorbed it, shifted, changed. It was no longer just armor. It was alive. The suit's systems whispered things to him now. Fragments of alien language, warning tones in voices not meant for human ears. It pulsed against his body like a second heart. The pain should have killed him a dozen times over. The heat alone could have boiled him in his own blood. But Ward was no longer just human. He was something more, something born of Earth's rage and alien tech stitched together with hatred. Inside his helmet, warning messages flashed in 10 different languages. His bones screamed with every step, but he kept moving, drifting through the shattered hull of the station out into open space. The Titan had survived, and the galaxy would know it. Back on Earth, the transmission hit the underground network 27 minutes after the blast. A low-res video, shaky and dark, but unmistakable. It showed Ward, limping but standing, walking through the burning ruins of Varan 8 with fire in his wake and bodies scattered like trash. The Council insignia burned on the walls behind him. A message, etched in plasma on the steel. "We remember." The video spread like wildfire. First among the rebels hiding in the deep Earth shelters. Then to the colony freighters drifting in Council-occupied space. Then through encrypted channels into the smuggler fleets, the black market arms dealers, the prisoners working the ice mines of Titan. They saw Ward. They saw the Titan, and hope, real hope, ignited like a spark on dry leaves. For decades, humans were the punchline of every alien political joke. Now, they were a threat. The Council didn't respond with statements or denials. They doubled down. An emergency session was called. War measures were passed. Earth was to be reclassified not as a minor colony, but as a rogue threat species. Any human ship found beyond the solar border would be shot on sight. Any human harboring rebel activity would be exterminated. They wanted fear. But fear is a funny thing. Sometimes it obeys, sometimes it fights. 2 days later, the rebel cruiser Dustwalker picked up a faint beacon near the rings of Saturn. It wasn't standard Council frequency. It was old, primitive, human. The crew, half mad from radiation exposure and short on fuel, debated ignoring it. But someone recognized the signal pattern. It was the old Earth distress call. Code 47. Titan still alive. Repeat. Titan alive. Moving toward Earth. The captain, an ex-military dropout named Garrick, stared at the comm screen for a long time. His hands trembled slightly. He'd fought in the Chicago Uprising, same as Ward. Had seen him once, drenched in blood, carrying a wounded girl through a war zone like she weighed nothing. He issued a single order. Plot intercept course. The crew didn't question him. Ward wasn't sure how long he floated. Time bent in space. The suit kept him alive, barely. Oxygen rationed. Fluids recycled. Pain managed only by the cold disconnect of the machine wrapped around him. He should have blacked out. Should have died a dozen times by now. But the rage kept him awake. He didn't think about the war. He thought about the things he saw before they branded him a terrorist. Children dying in streets with no med units left. Refugees turned away from Council aid ships because they were statistically aggressive. Entire cities flattened and repurposed for mining colonies. They told Earth to forget. Ward didn't. When the Dustwalker found him, he was curled in a ball near Saturn's outer rings, still holding his blade, unconscious but breathing. It took 6 men to haul him into their cargo bay. The moment his helmet unsealed, steam hissed out like the last breath of a dragon. Garrick stood over him. "Get him med support," he growled. "Patch up the suit. I want him breathing." One of the crew whispered, "He doesn't look human anymore." Garrick's eyes didn't blink. Good, because we're not fighting humans anymore either. 2 weeks passed. Ward healed slowly. His body was shredded inside, patched with gene therapy and raw grit. But it was his mind that remained sharp. Dangerously sharp. He didn't waste time. He mapped Council weak points, outpost locations, supply chains. He knew how they operated, what they feared, and he had a message. They wouldn't win this war with petitions. They'd win it with explosions. So when Garrick handed him a plan, hit a council convoy carrying weapons for the moons of Myelon 3, Ward didn't hesitate. He suited up. The Titan was ready again. But something was different now. The armor obeyed him faster, responded not just to his movements, but his emotions. When he raged, the suit heated. When he calmed, it dimmed. It was alive, bound to him. And it wanted Ward just as much as he did. The ambush was clean. The Dustwalker used a solar flare burst to mask their approach. Ward launched from the ship like a bullet, crashing into the convoy's lead carrier. His blade punched through the engine core, igniting it instantly. The remaining guards scattered. The Titan didn't. He moved like judgment itself, cutting, stomping, unleashing pure chaos. The convoy exploded across the moonscape, fire reflecting off the Titan's burning armor. And above it all, he carved another message in plasma. You wanted silence, you got a storm. Back on the Council homeworld, panic spread like poison. They thought Earth would fall in a decade. Now they feared it would rise in a year. And leading the charge, a ghost in black armor, the Titan from Earth. The one they tried to kill, the one they ignored. The one they'd never forget. They called him the Black Scar now. It wasn't a name the humans gave him. It was what the aliens whispered over encrypted channels, in dark council rooms, and among the shattered remains of their dead. Wherever Ward struck, he didn't just destroy their equipment. He left a wound that didn't heal, a scar, a memory. It wasn't just one convoy anymore. In the 2 months since the Varun 8 massacre, Ward had hit 11 separate targets: munitions bases, communication hubs, off-world depots. The Titan had become myth. Some said he couldn't be killed. Others said he'd already died, and what they were fighting now was something else entirely. They were both right. Ward wasn't alive the way most beings understood it. The human body inside the suit still bled, still hurt, still needed sleep, medicine, rest. But the machine didn't. And together, they were more than either. The Dustwalker had become his mobile command ship, retrofitted for speed and stealth. Garrick handled the ops. The crew followed every word Ward gave like gospel, because they saw something in him that hadn't existed in decades, a future where Earth didn't kneel. It was during the Takari raid when things changed. The Takari outpost wasn't just a weapons depot, it was a breeding camp. Earthborn prisoners had been sold off to it for decades, used as labor and worse. The Council called it rehabilitation. Ward called it hell. He didn't sneak in this time. He landed on the front wall, from the skies, like fire. The Titan crushed the outer defenses in 5 minutes. Gun towers melted. Guard mechs ripped apart with bare hands. Ward stomped through the central plaza like he owned it, and no one could stop him. Until he heard the voice. A scream. Not from a guard. From a human. A child. He turned and saw them. Cages stacked 3 levels high, full of children. Starved, dirty, eyes wide in terror, not at the aliens, but at him. He realized then what he looked like to them. A monster. The armor dripped in oil and blood, glowing faint red from the heat of his fury. The exoblade still vibrated from its last kill. These kids didn't see a savior. They saw the thing that nightmares were scared of. Ward paused. He didn't drop his weapon, didn't speak. He just turned, burned through the lock with a laser pulse, and yanked the cage door open. One by one they climbed out, flinching when he moved, until one boy stepped closer, the smallest of them, maybe 6 years old. covered in bruises. His voice trembled when he spoke. You from Earth?" Ward knelt, his armor groaning as it folded. "I am Earth." The boy nodded, then reached out and touched the armor. And that's when Ward knew. This wasn't just vengeance anymore. It was responsibility. He wasn't just a weapon. He was a symbol. The broadcast was unintentional. One of the techs on Dustwalker, a former comms officer named Trin, had been recording helmet cam footage for analysis. But she forgot to disable the real-time relay, so the entire liberation of Takari was uploaded, accidentally, to an open net. Within 3 hours, it had been copied across 5 systems. Within 6, it was on every black market channel in the Outer Rim. By the end of the day, half the Council colonies had seen it. Humans weren't afraid anymore. They were angry, and they were organizing. For the first time in decades, there was a real resistance. They called themselves the Scorched. A name born from the way Earth had been left behind, and the way they would now burn their way back to justice. Ward didn't ask for followers, but they came anyway. Drop pilots, smugglers, ex-soldiers, even alien species who'd been oppressed by the Council began to reach out. Quietly, carefully, but they came. Because wherever the Titan walked, the lie of the Council cracked. Back on the Council homeworld of Virel, panic had turned to desperation. "They're spreading," growled High Senator Telm, his scales twitching under stress. "The humans have infected 6 colonies. They are organizing in the shadows. The Titan is fueling a war." "And we helped," muttered Commander Yalzek, the only one willing to admit the truth. "We didn't kill him when we had the chance. Now he's becoming an idea." "Then ideas must bleed," another hissed. They voted in silence. By the end of the hour, the motion had passed. Operation Ashfire. Every suspected rebel human outpost was to be wiped. Every colony suspected of aiding resistance would be purged. Entire sectors would be sacrificed if needed. Collateral didn't matter. The message did. Ward got word of it too late. The Dustwalker had intercepted Council movements near the Alaran corridor, a known route toward 3 resistance-run colonies. Too many ships. Too much noise. Garrick confirmed it. They're sending a kill fleet. Full spectrum eradication. No survivors. Ward didn't hesitate. "Set course for Rylex 3, fastest route. We intercept before they reach the colonies." "Even with Titan-class armor, you won't survive direct assault from a fleet." "Then I won't attack the fleet," Ward replied. "I'll break their chain of command." He pointed to a blinking point on the map. "The dreadnought Vol Hallam, the fleet's control vessel. Cut the head. Let the body rot." The assault wasn't clean. Ward launched straight from orbit, bypassing 3 layers of fleet formation, using every scrap of stealth tech Earth had stolen. The Vol Hallam was a floating fortress, 5 miles wide, bristling with guns. But guns only work if you can pull the trigger. Ward crashed straight into the bridge. They never got the chance. He didn't fight his way in. He ripped his way in. Through guards, through walls, through every barrier the Council thought made them safe. And when he stood in the heart of their ship, surrounded by officers in gold robes and silken uniforms, he spoke for the first time in weeks. "You could have left us alone." He lifted the exoblade. "You could have let us rebuild." The first swipe cut through 3 senators. "But you wanted silence." The second tore through the control node. "You forgot what happens when Earth gets angry." And the third, that was just for him. He left the Vol Hallam drifting, airless and broken. The rest of the fleet scattered. They didn't wait for orders. They didn't look for vengeance. They ran. And across the galaxy, Resistance leaders watched it happen in real time. The myth had turned real. The Titan from Earth had gone straight into the lion's den and walked out dripping in blood. And the Scorched? They doubled overnight. Earth was rising, and the Council was running out of places to hide. The Council's homeworld, Varel, had never seen war. Not once in its 1,000-year reign. It didn't need to. Every other world bent before it. Every rebellion crushed in orbit. Every dissenter erased before a blaster ever needed to be drawn. Varel ruled from behind curtains, velvet, gold-trimmed, untouchable, until now. Until Earth. Until Ward. The Titan wasn't knocking on the door anymore. He was tearing it off the hinges. The fleet was scattered. The Volhallam was gone. And in the political vacuum it left behind, the remaining council members panicked. Emergency broadcasts lit up across Varel's orbit. Automated drones began mobilizing defensive platforms that hadn't activated in over 5 centuries. But it was too late for war plans. Too late for diplomacy. Because something far worse had arrived. The truth. The Scorched had grown beyond even Ward's own command. Cell groups had sprouted in places he'd never touched. Non-humans, once loyal to the Council, were defecting. Small, quiet, but enough to cause cracks. Once faithful officers were ignoring orders. Soldiers were turning their guns off in battle, letting humans pass. Because the legend of the Titan wasn't just about vengeance anymore. It was about proof. Proof that the Council wasn't invincible. That the stories told on Varel were lies. And that Earth, the forgotten, gutted husk of a planet, had birthed a storm that could no longer be stopped. Ward sat in the silence of the Dustwalker's cargo hold, his armor powered down, steam venting gently from the back ports. He wasn't resting. He didn't sleep anymore. The machine didn't let him. His dreams, what little was left of them, were fire and steel. Screams, explosions. The look on the face of that child from the Takari outpost when he said, "I am Earth." That moment lived inside him now. That child didn't see a soldier. He saw something bigger. And that terrified Ward more than anything. He wasn't supposed to lead a revolution. He was just supposed to make them remember what they'd done. But now, they were following. They were organizing. And they were waiting for him to take the next step. To Varel. To the center of it all. Garrick stood beside him, arms crossed. The old soldier had gone gray at the temples, his body worn thin from months of hiding and war. "We hit the homeworld," he said, "and we lose the last of the diplomacy. This becomes full extinction-level retaliation. You know that, right?" Ward looked at him. "I'm not here for diplomacy." Garrick sighed. "Thought you'd say that." Then tossed him a small device. "What's this?" Ward asked. "Coordinates. Underground rail near Varel's old sector dome. It's the Council's vault. All their records, their lies, their cover-ups, real ones, hidden for centuries. You leak those files into the network. We don't just win, we end them." Ward stared at the chip for a long moment. "Then we end them." The approach wasn't clean. Varel's skies bristled with orbital guns, each one 10 times the size of the cannons on Volhallam. They fired as soon as Dustwalker broke into low orbit. 3 plasma rounds tore through the left thruster. One of the crew was vaporized instantly. Garrick cursed. "Brace! Manual override!" Ward didn't wait. He slammed open the airlock and launched out of the ship. No stealth, no cloaking. Just the Titan. He plummeted through Varel's atmosphere like a comet, fire trailing behind him. The impact shattered a skyscraper dome on the outer district, sending glass and steel raining down on the posh market towers. Civilians screamed and scattered. Drones deployed. Ward didn't stop. He activated the pulse cannon and cleared the plaza in seconds. One of the Council's urban mechs approached, six-legged, armed with ion cleavers and heavy suppressors. It fired a barrage straight at him. Ward dove into it. Literally. He pierced its outer shell with the blade, climbed into the cockpit mid-fire, and tore the pilot in half before rerouting the mech's own weapons to fire on its allies. Virel's defense line collapsed in under 9 minutes. He found the vault deep beneath the old Senate spire, hidden behind false architecture and cloaked fields. It was real, just as Garrick said. A crystalline server structure stretching a mile down into the planet's bedrock. Ward stared at it. So much data, so many secrets. Every genocide, every slave labor colony, every human accident conveniently scrubbed from the historical logs, every lie the Council ever told. Proof. He uploaded it into the scorched relay system using a portable spike drive. The files started flooding. Earth would see, the colonies would see, the galaxy would know. No more hiding. No more pretending. The Council was exposed, but it wasn't over. Not yet. Because as Ward emerged from the vault, something hit him. Not a weapon. A voice, software cold. "You think this ends with truth?" it said. From the shadows, a figure emerged. Tall, thin, robed in silver. High Archon Vel, the Council's executioner. "You think data changes the universe?" he hissed. "Number power changes it." Vel raised his arm, and Ward's systems screamed. His armor locked, energy surged. The Titan's exoframe convulsed violently. EMP spikes, multi-frequency disruptors woven into Virel's bedrock. Only someone from inside the Council would have known to trigger them. Ward dropped to one knee. The armor shuddered, glitched, flickered. "You're nothing," Vel spat. "A corpse in a machine, a tantrum." He walked closer. "I admired the fear you caused. It was amusing. But now, you die." Ward stared at him, his eyes burning through the helmet. "No." He forced one hand to move, then the other. The armor glitched again, then roared. Vel blinked. "Impossible." Ward rose, 1 inch, then another. The EMP field wasn't failing. The armor was adapting, absorbing, evolving. Ward's voice came through the speaker, low and shaking with power. "You forgot one thing." "What?" "We're human." He lunged. Vel never screamed. The blade punched through him too fast. Outside, the skies over Virel began to change. The resistance had arrived. Ships bearing Earth's old flag. Freighters armed with scrap metal cannons. Fighters welded from junkyards. They had no fleet code, no permission to exist. But they came anyway, because they saw the beacon, because they saw the Titan walk. And now, they were ready to finish what he started. The sky above Virel had never known war. Its clouds were artificial, its weather controlled. For centuries, it was a haven for the elite, the chosen few who never saw the cost of their power. They ruled in comfort, while the rest of the galaxy burned. That changed in under 30 minutes. The scorched fleet came in ragged lines, nothing elegant or military. These were stolen freighters, refitted cargo haulers, personal ships bolted with guns. Ugly, loud, desperate. But they didn't need beauty. They had fire. The orbital defenses of Virel opened up, unleashing volleys of ion bursts and fragmentation torpedoes. But the Scorched had numbers, and more importantly, they had one thing the Council didn't: a reason to fight. Ward stood at the top of the Council spire, armor hissing smoke, blade dripping with the blood of High Archon Vel. Below him, explosions ripped through the skyline. The air was thick with fire and debris. Inside the helmet, the suit's AI kept pulsing updates. Incoming transmission. Dustwalker. Scorched units have breached atmosphere, ground forces deploying, reinforcements arriving from Kelnus Moonbase. ETA, 6 minutes. Ward didn't respond. He didn't need to. He already knew what had to be done. This wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a reckoning. Garrick's voice broke through the comms. Ward, you hearing this? They're dropping orbital glassers on the lower sectors. Council's trying to wipe out their own people to kill you. Ward didn't flinch. Let them try. He jumped. 30 stories down, straight through glass, metal, flame. The Titan slammed into the plaza below, a shockwave exploding outward. Guards scrambled to respond, whatever loyalists remained. They were armed with plasma rifles, seeker drones, even a heavy mech unit painted in gold trim. Ward charged through them like a wrecking ball. The first guard exploded under his piston punch. The second melted from a pulse blast to the chest. The mech opened fire with a barrage of heat-seeking missiles. Ward caught 2 on his shoulder and launched the third back with a flick of his blade, detonating it against the mech's face. The rest broke and ran. The civilians who hadn't fled watched from windows, eyes wide in disbelief. This wasn't a terrorist. This was justice incarnate. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the ground of Virel shook. The Scorched began landing. They used anything with wings: rusted transports, converted mining rigs, jump packs powered by stolen fusion cells. Garrick led the first wave, his rifle shaking in his hands, but his voice steady over comms. We breach the Citadel gates, plant the charges, and blow their legacy to hell. They moved like fire through the city's outer rings, using the chaos Ward created as cover. Resistance was fierce. Council death squads patrolled the inner wards, using citizens as shields. But the Scorched had nothing left to lose. They fought like ghosts. And they started winning. Inside the heart of the Citadel, the last of the Council sat trembling. They'd locked themselves in the core chamber, where a backup AI maintained planetary control. Climate, orbital systems, defense towers, everything ran through it. And now it was failing. The data Ward uploaded had cracked open the vault, and the system was crashing. Senator Drell, a leathery skith with bioluminescent skin, slammed her fists on the console. We must evacuate, now! There's nowhere to go, another hissed. Every fleet is compromised. He's turned them all against us. Then the door trembled. Not from explosives, from footsteps. Heavy, measured. Boom, boom, boom. Seal it, someone screamed. Too late. The metal burst inward, and Ward stepped through, lit by the glow of burning systems and the pale terror of the galaxy's most powerful cowards. He said nothing. He raised his cannon. The last council chamber turned into a tomb. Outside, Garrick and the Scorched breached the east wall. He watched the explosion from afar, bright, sudden, final. The council was dead, not symbolically, literally. Garrick lowered his rifle, exhaling slowly. It was done, or so he thought. That's when the sky cracked open, not from ships, from the Earth itself. Virel's deep-core reactor had been hidden beneath the council chambers for centuries. A last-ditch failsafe. If the planet ever fell, they'd take it with them. Ward hadn't known. But the AI did. The Titan suit screamed a warning. Planetary core breach detected. Time to critical failure! 10 minutes! Ward staggered, flames licking his armor. This wasn't victory, it was annihilation. They were willing to destroy the entire planet rather than let him live. He activated every channel he could. Evacuate. All scorched units, get to orbit, now. Garrick's voice broke back. Ward, there's not enough ships. Do it! What about you? Silence. Then, I started this. I'll finish it. The Scorched began pulling out, fighting through chaos to reach whatever ships were still mobile. Garrick refused to leave until the last freighter lifted off. Dozens of humans stayed behind with him. Mechanics, runners, rebels who'd lost everything. Because now? They had something to die for. Ward reached the planetary core with 6 minutes left. The vault was collapsing. Radiation levels off the charts. The heat alone would melt steel. The floor beneath his boots cracked with every step. He reached the failsafe, a control node, a way to vent the core into the upper atmosphere instead of allowing full detonation. But it was locked. Biometrically, only a council signature could open it. He looked down. Vel's blood still coated his blade. He dug into the armor's storage and pulled out the severed hand, pressed it to the node. The core hissed, vented, stabilized. Just enough. The planet wouldn't explode, but the citadel would burn. Forever. Ward collapsed as the chamber caved in. The Titan armor locked around him, sealing tight, cocooning him in a shell of molten metal and silence. No escape, no exit, but no surrender either. He'd done what he came to do. He made them remember. 30 hours later, the Scorched broadcast their first official message. From a salvaged station in the asteroid belt, Garrick stood before the camera. This galaxy belonged to tyrants, he said, but we took it back, not with peace, not with promises, but with fire. He held up the old Earth flag, torn, burned, but still waving. And we did it because one man reminded us what it meant to be free. A pause. Then, we don't know if he survived. Maybe he's out there. Maybe he's gone. But either way, his war is over. They called the broadcast "The Day Virel Fell." And from that day on, the stars would whisper a new name, not of gods, not of emperors, but of one man, one weapon, one Titan. From Earth, they searched the ruins for 6 days. No signal, no movement, no sign of life. The Citadel crater stretched nearly 2 kilometers wide, scorched into the bones of Virel's surface. The once proud towers of the council were reduced to black stone and twisted steel. Fires still smoldered in the lower chambers, and the air was thick with radiation. Garrick stood at the edge, armor scratched and blackened, a breathing mask clipped to his jaw. He didn't speak for a long time. Not to his crew, not to the scouts, not even to himself. He was listening, hoping, praying, for the impossible. But the pit stayed silent. Ward was gone. The Scorched honored him the only way they knew how. No statues, no songs, no carved granite with gold letters, just a flame. One eternal burn lit from the fusion core of a downed Titan mech, mounted in the center of the old Earth refuge on Crixus 4. The plaque beneath it read, "He walked so we could rise." Nothing more, nothing less. And slowly, the galaxy began to change. The council was dead. Its fleets scattered, its leaders buried, its systems thrown into chaos. What followed wasn't peace. It was power vacuum. Rogue factions rose overnight. Warlords, pirates, mercenary syndicates using the collapse as an excuse to carve out new thrones. Entire colonies once loyal to the council turned feral. Old grudges resurfaced. Blood debts long buried came calling, and in the middle of it all, humanity. The Scorched weren't an army anymore. They were a nation, and Earth, once stripped of its dignity, now held a voice in the galaxy's future. But leadership was never Ward's goal. And with him gone, others stepped up. Garrick led the interim network. He organized peace talks between the human enclaves and sympathetic alien factions. He struck trade deals with defected colonies. He even helped launch the New Earth Accord, a council of ex-rebels and colonists who swore never to let another empire rise. But even as the politics shifted, the streets still whispered one question. Was Ward really dead? 3 months later, the rumors began. A mech spotted on Delcar's moon. A single armored figure walking across the scorched plains of Velos Prime, leaving behind a graveyard of mercenary ships. A hacked comm transmission full of static, but buried beneath the noise. A voice. Low. Guttural. I remember. No proof, no footage, no confirmation. But Garrick knew better. He sat alone in the strategy chamber of the Dustwalker, staring at the grainy freeze frame pulled from a distant asteroid relay cam. A silhouette, huge, broad, one red eye glowing faint through the shadows of a ruined mining field. The profile matched. The gait matched. And the silence? That was Ward's signature. He's still out there, Garrick muttered. Still fighting. But if Ward was alive, he wasn't returning. He hadn't broadcast a message, hadn't reached out to the Scorched, hadn't called Garrick once. And Garrick knew why. Ward never fought for the politics. Never for the council or the territory or the new treaties. He fought for the silence. For the dead. And once the council burned, his war was over. But not his guilt. Somewhere in the edge of null space, inside a derelict freighter buried beneath asteroid ice, Ward sat alone. The Titan suit had fused to him now. Parts of it were permanent. No more helmet seal, no more cockpit exits. The machine pulsed with its own rhythm, its own strange energy, alien and human combined, feeding on adrenaline and grief. He could walk, he could fight, but he couldn't stop. Because the faces haunted him. The children from Takari, the civilians who died on Virel, the rebels who stayed behind in that burning city just so the Scorched could escape. They all had names. And he remembered everyone. His war hadn't ended. It had changed. A pirate gang operating out of Mir 12 disappeared overnight. No distress calls, no survivors. Just one word carved into the hangar wall in black steel. Enough. A warlord who enslaved survivors from former council colonies was found crucified inside his own dropship, the hull scarred with deep mechanical claw marks. And every time a corrupt general, a smuggler kingpin, or a slaver ring vanished, the pattern repeated. No messages, no demands, just silence. And a rumor. The Titan walks again. Back on Crixus 4, Garrick stood at the eternal flame, watching it flicker against the metal walls. The boy from Takari was there too. Older now. Cleaned up. A rifle slung over his shoulder, a scorched badge pinned to his chest. He turned to Garrick. Do you think he'll ever come back? Garrick didn't answer for a long time. Then he said, he never left. The New Earth Accord passed its final charter that year. No species would be ruled by another. No world would be stripped and forgotten. And no one would be allowed to forget the man who made that possible. The man who didn't ask for power. The man who didn't seek glory. Just the right to be remembered. In the quiet corners of space, in the places the council buried and burned, people still tell stories. Stories about a monster wrapped in armor, born in fire, who turned the galaxy upside down. Some say he's vengeance. Some say he's justice. Some say he's already dead, and everything else is just ghost stories. But ask any scorched veteran what they believe, and they'll all say the same thing. The Titan is still walking. It started with a whisper, an untraceable signal, barely a flicker in the deep noise of galactic comm traffic. A dead language, too old for modern decoders to recognize. But some remembered. Earth's old resistance code, frequency 37.9, the one Ward used before the war. It repeated every 6 hours, transmitting from a drifting asteroid field in Sector 19. Garrick heard it first. He was aboard the Dustwalker, now a relic ship turned command center for the Scorched Fleet. The message played softly, over and over, almost like a lullaby. He played it back 20 times before calling the others. It wasn't a call for help. It was a farewell. The asteroid was nothing special. Just another dead rock spinning in space. No gravity, no atmosphere, no heat signature. But buried in the ice, they found it. A cockpit, half fused to the rock, its surface scorched black, one red lens blinking faintly in the darkness like a dying heartbeat. They pried it open with a plasma torch. And inside, they found the man. What was left of him. Ward. His body hadn't decayed. It had adapted. Titan metal laced through his veins now, bone reinforced with alien composite, skin that pulsed with dormant power. He wasn't breathing, but he wasn't dead. He was frozen, suspended, waiting. Garrick stood over him in silence, flanked by the boy from Takari and the new scorched envoy. The boy had grown into a man, lean, sharp-eyed, a soldier in every step. He knelt by the open cockpit, staring into the hollow mask that had once haunted his dreams. He knew, he said. Garrick didn't reply. He knew he wasn't coming back. Still silence. He didn't just fight the council, he made sure they never came back. Garrick finally spoke. And now it's our turn. They didn't bring Ward's body back. They left it in the rock, just as he chose. But they built something around it. The monument wasn't public. It wasn't on any map. But those who fought, those who bled, those who survived, they knew where to find it. Deep in the asteroid fields, hidden from the civilized lanes, there was a chamber carved from ice and steel. Inside, the Titan rested, locked in eternal stillness, his armor wrapped around him like a coffin forged in fire. A single message engraved on the chamber door. He took the first step. The rest is ours. Years passed, then decades. The galaxy rebuilt. Not perfectly, not peacefully, but differently. The new Earth Accord expanded across 9 systems. Former Council species were welcomed, though not all accepted. The wounds of empires ran deep. But one thing remained constant. No one tried to rule the galaxy again. Because somewhere out there, in the black void between stars, the Titan was watching. They say he moves sometimes. Not far, just a twitch of the fingers, a blink of red light from the visor. Once, a low hum, like the reactor core of his armor had stirred back to life for just a second. No one's confirmed it. No one's tried. Because the Scorched made one thing clear. He earned his rest. 100 years after the fall of Virel, a new war began on the edge of the Taurus expanse. A warlord named Crux began enslaving colonies again, building fleets, broadcasting old council slogans. The Scorched responded. Not with armies, with a box, delivered directly to Crux's command ship. Inside was a shard of exoblade metal, still warm, still red. Crow never attacked another system. Because even now, after all this time, the Titan was still the galaxy's last threat, the line no tyrant wanted to cross. The boy from Takari became the first president of the Free Systems Alliance. His face was never seen without the old Earth insignia on his jacket sleeve. He never let people forget where they came from. He visited the monument every year, alone. Once, when asked why, he answered only, "I owe him my life. The galaxy owes him everything else." And what of Ward? Some say the armor is still alive, feeding off ambient energy, waiting for a trigger. Some say his mind is gone, locked in a loop of old war memories. Others believe something stranger, that Ward never truly died, that the man inside the armor became something more, a symbol, a force, a living echo, a titan. But one truth remains. He didn't do it for glory. He didn't do it for revenge. He didn't even do it for Earth. He did it because no one else would. He did it because someone had to be first. Someone had to take that first step into the fire. And when he did, the galaxy changed. Forever.